All right, so any players who make it in the top two here will be moving on to day two, guaranteed. Uh, Everyone else will have to go to the elimination round.
Yep. And anybody that loses in the other match is out of the game.
All right, so what do we have here? We got an Echo right for the first time.
Yeah.
First time in the tournament.
Lord versus Repeater. I like Repeater.
Yeah, I'm also on the Repeater train. I think you just try to build a busted combo deck. A few starting consume spells, though, can be a little awkward with Repeater. But honestly, if you're going to have a starting spell that you're not like really controlling to go onto your Repeater, I don't mind it being Wildwood Sap and just getting the Bounding Echoes out.
Yeah, you can also fish for like a really expensive consume spell to trigger Split Anvil. That would be interesting as well. You could get maybe even consume remove, or not consume remove, but double stack on Wildwood Sap.
I guess we're going to make people put their money where their mouth is on the egg or no egg issue here. I see
so we got
a bunch of eggs.
Never Nathaniel, or Sanguine Penguin went egg. Never Nathaniel went egg. Gabriel and Sato, I don't know.
I think they both went egg.
Oh, no.
We're going to see 4 eggs.
That's terrible news.
Yep. Sato's on egg.
Aw.
And Gabriel's egg. So nobody going for the combo deck, the early combo deck. You know what? Honestly, Nardinian, I'm hoping to see a murder run just to put some egg people in their place.
We got 2 commenters here that are not equipped for handling all this egg. So Sanguine Penguin gets an imperfect ring 1.
Yeah, I kind of expected when you're on egg. All right, I probably shouldn't just trash egg the whole time.
It serves them right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a long run if we just talk about egg the entire time.
Oh, but we do get no imperfect run from Never Nathaniel. I think it's probably just wasn't meant to be perfect.
Yeah, it looks like Gabriel and Sato will probably be able to pull it off, though. It's like they're going to be fine.
Interesting. So they all had basically very similar starting setups. So all came down to tactical play.
Yeah, I think it was a matter of how echo breaks were distributed in the end. Like that leak was a 3, which means they don't actually know it was an issue with dealing with frontliners appropriately because they all dealt with the backliner and then they lost 3 to 1 different frontliner.
Man, going for see, we got Bog Chrysalis and Glareminder, so you got more egg stuff, or you can go with Glareminder, who is helping you with all these consumes that you have access to. Yeah,
Glareminder is a really, really strong creature. Definitely a lot of players not going to have an insane amount of practice with it, given that it's a rare banner unit. It's in the realm of a lot of those new creatures, like Apex Imps and Neogorgon and stuff like that, where you're not going to encounter them a lot. The only one I really feel like I encounter an insane amount is Legion of Wax. But yeah, Glareminder, very, very strong. I'm not sure how it shapes up to a lot of the really high impact rare units, but it's definitely better than your average unit, better than your average banner unit.
So we have Animus of a Will is the other one with multi-strike. Obviously a lot of damage potential with root seeds, but the low health is the problem.
Already got a leak early on in this fight for Penguin. Could not clear out the Mark of Invasion fast enough.
Yeah, with the haste, it's hard with the haste.
Yeah, so the big issue here, for anyone who doesn't know, he was able to sweep these waves early on. But if there are more than 7 enemy units trying to enter a floor, then any extra units which would enter that floor beyond 7 are actually immediately ascended to the floor above it. So an enemy jumped all the way from bottom floor straight into the pyre room. I think the root seeds are going to play really strong with Animus of Will, and obviously you have a lot of enhancements coming out of Wormkin that can play well with it. But Animus of Will is not going to deal with one of your bigger issues here, which is how are you confronting spikes and how are you confronting sweep. So that's
right. And we saw one person actually add 10 health to it, which might be a little low. So we got a Sanguine with an imperfect floor 2 kill.
They've actually been generally fortunate so far that neither of the trials were armor trials. Armor trials would have been very bad here. The echo breaks have been extremely important in how these fights have played out. Oh, looks like a very large leak coming out for
Nathaniel,
Nate. Yeah. Not quite stack up to the Spike's boss there. I think he ended up stacking his regen too high on one unit, and then the others died in Relentless to Spikes. And his single unit just being so small, like it didn't matter how long it was going to live.
So we got a perfect kill from Sato there. Oh, that's his second flawless victory.
Now, I like these glimmers a lot here. Partly just like sweeping is going to be a very important thing. And even if you already have that built into something like a glare minder, it's never really too harmful to have more of it, especially if you're going to be spread pretty wide in terms of banner units, because you can't count on the glare minder early or count on the glare minder being buffed up early. But also because the glimmer is one really, really nice thing to put magic power on. And the value of just having at least one thing that really wants magic power is so high. This is going to be a rough fight for Gabriel here. Oh.
Yeah, he's got to reset. There's no way he's going to beat that. So that is ring 2 reset for Gabriel here.
Yeah.
So, interestingly, another thing about Glimmer is, I mean, I keep going back to this, but it lets you, if you can get that consistently, it lets you keep your backline alive for Divinity, and that's a huge option that you don't have to worry about anymore.
Yeah, and to interact with that, players are going to have to be extremely mindful of how big they make Divinity. Exact numbers are going to matter here, lining up its health with the weakest of your backliners.
I mean, you still have to worry about spikes, but if you can get piercing on it, that is a big help.
Yeah, it's more just like you can't completely disregard health on your units because healing is retroactive sustain. So you need them to actually be able to survive exactly that one sweep from Divinity. And we saw earlier, Divinity sizes on that sweep floor, attack sizes can be really massive if you're going heavy in the shards. Yeah, Gabriel in a very tough situation here. He went pretty hard into the Animus of Will and also didn't have his egg set up very strong. And so Spike's boss just tore up Animus of Will. He's gonna be perfectly fine getting through it. Still took the same Mark of Invasion leak here, but at least he's alive. Just no points for that ring.
Yeah, no points for that ring. So that would be ring. I'm going to say he completed the ring, and I'll subtract. I'm not sure what the intention is here.
Yeah, it was ring 2. So Gabriel, looking at that glimmer, opted for the sting next to it instead. I'm curious about the thought process because I also think he didn't pick up the glare minder, so he doesn't have any type of sweeping damage right.
I do like the consume artifact there. There's a lot of consume cards in this deck, especially with the potential to go repeater down the road.
Yeah, it'll play well with the Echo Breaks. It's a little bit awkward to have Echo Break specifically be your card that's powered up because Echo Break is pretty unreliable in terms of damage and in terms of targeting. So you definitely want to pick up some more spells to go with it. I think we've already seen a Proclamation earlier in here, and there's a lot of good Wormkin spells that really like magic power.
So Never Nathaniel completed ring 3 flawlessly. Excellent.
Going for the quick here. So the quick is going to be really interesting. It'll play extremely strong on the glare minder or on a trample egg. One thing to watch out for, depending on what you end up having to quick, which might apply to other people's setups but not his, is are you going to get your thing to accidentally hit those double wilt wing waves first? Because if you're putting quick on a bigger unit and you end up losing that large chunk of damage to a small unit like a wilt wing, it can be a big problem. If you go plus 10 piercing and hold over on your glimmer, then that glimmer isn't necessarily big enough to actually kill an enhanced wilt wing.
Yeah. Although with the Notice Stone, it might be.
Yeah, you just have to build that up pretty fast. At this point, I'd like to see them. So I'm still thinking about repeater because like we could still pick up repeater at some point here, and repeater one is really all you need. Obviously, once you're going egg, it's kind of nice to just keep going egg. The size increase at the end is really troublesome. Um, but I think egg tends to breed egg being good more. Also, the ability, the etch ability on Echo right when you go with the egg path encourages you to go pretty wide in terms of consume spells. But I think there's a non-zero option to try and go a little more lean with it here and still build into repeater. The way players are kind of drafting here, it seems like they're just foregoing that option altogether. So if we see repeater in the second dark forward, it's probably just not risk it.
Maybe. So we have the option to have our units damaged and damage shields on enemy units, which leads into piercing on all spells, which could be strong.
Yeah, and then Nate going for Broken Wheel. Broken Wheel going to be very dangerous here. Broken Wheel, like the upside long term is pretty solid, especially endless on your eggs. But that's one of those artifacts that can actually just straight up kill you. Even if you don't lose the fight, you're in a position where you can't win the run. You lose something important to it. Broken Wheel, for those who don't know, for this fight, during this fight alone, any of Nate's units that die get purged.
Actually, 2 fights, I believe.
Oh, 2 fights? Yeah.
Yeah.
If he loses that Glare Minder, he's in a bad spot. So, granted, he is on a sweet Glare Minder, so he's probably going to be fine, though he's also at a high threat level. Fortunately, in the early game, high threat levels don't equate as much to damage output from enemies as they do health on enemies. I'm still really curious about Gabriel's decision to forgo the Glimmer here. Might want to ask him about that one later. Curious pick.
So we got he did get a Flawless Ring 3.
So, Nardanian, if you're thinking about like your ultimate Echo Right build from this point, how are you splitting up? The way I'm leaning is towards is 2 level of egg and 1 level of Shellsmith, maybe, or it's basically a split between egg and armor. I think that's like a nice, good hybridy way to go. And the Glare Minder output, Glare Minder damage output is really strong, or the Animus damage output. I just think you want to make sure you have a little bit of consistent armor. And both of those things play well if you're going wide with consume spells, but I'm interested in how you might try to build your Echo right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird in that you're building regen and armor at the same time, which is not super synergistic. But I guess the armor could keep your backline alive. I can't really speak to eggs because I don't know what I'm doing.
Still not an expert.
I'm not an expert.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what Gabriel does with the Malika artifacts here, the downside artifacts. His deck, I mean, it's not really thriving right now. Survivability on his units isn't that bad, so he maybe could have gone for Broken Wheel to get the Train Stewards out for free, as long as he can keep his Awoken Hall alive. He opts to pass all of them. Probably pretty reasonable. I think so there's one thing to consider here if you're a player, like their perspective, they don't know what's going on with other players, and often you might assume that if something's going rough for you, it's going rough for everyone else as well. Gabriel might be in a position where he thinks that this run is a lot more about making sure you win the run right now than it is about generating really busted things to try and get flying kills or flawless fights. Because the run hasn't been going too cleanly for him.
So we see piercing offered in the temple. So while Sanguine Penguin puts it on the Glimmer, which I like. The 30 magic power is also an option on there as well.
Yeah, I think there's a give and take there. Obviously, those few waves that'll spawn during the divinity fight, where everything have a lot of spell shields, the piercing is going to be really important. But you're not getting that piercing to clear the tanks out completely. It's mostly clearing out things like shade wings, light wings, enemies that enchant with spikes and stuff like that. But another consideration for the plus 30 power on Glimmer, as opposed to plus 10 and piercing, is the amount of healing that you're getting. Not sure what his defensive plan is long term, but 32 points a turn plus whatever you're getting from the Notice Stone is a considerable amount. As long as you have enough health, that's kind of eternal sustain, pretty relentless.
Yeah.
All right, so we get to see what Gabriel's thoughts on the
Peter.
second Dark Forge is here.
Yeah, Repeater is offered, and he's looking at what consume spells he has, and he's not a fan.
Yeah.
He's going for second level Veg.
You're definitely just spread too thin here in terms of consume spells to be able to do anything busted with Repeater, at which point it's kind of medium. Also, if you want the option for Shellsmith, which is the armor path, you don't get that if you take Repeater now. I think it would have been a much more interesting decision if it was Shellsmith level 1 as opposed to Repeater level 1. Let's keep in mind here that Gabriel's the only player not on the Glimmer, so I'm curious what his defensive plan is going to be long term. Also, oh gosh, he took the Reflection, which is the artifact that auto upgrades all of your cards, all of your drafts.
Yeah,
that's a risky path to go here.
What? I don't think so. I think it's a strong artifact. So we have Sato with another ring 4, but not flawless. His first non-flawless kill.
I don't know. I hate to see like a good rare unit that has Burnout 1 on it.
Yeah, but you know, I think I've taken it many times, and I mean, this is what's the word I'm looking for? This is just based on my experiences, but it's paid off way more times than it's burned me.
Anecdotal, I think, is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, that was the word.
Yeah.
And yes, the units probably, I mean, yeah, it's not ideal for units, but you can still infuse units.
Essentially, it becomes a question of like.
But you can also get multi-strike, right?
That is true. There's a lot more things that are like rough for you as far as unit upgrades go, right? It's going to be tough to work around just getting a random large stone. Endless isn't doing much for you. Quick can be awkward. Quick can even sometimes hurt you, though that's a little less common.
How many times has it burned you? I'll say it's burned me like 95% of the time. It's been more helpful than harmful.
So
and the 5%, it wasn't hard.
So I've taken Reflection once, and it led to me skipping every single card that I saw in a draft from there on, because they all had upgrades that made them unusable. And then I just avoided it from there on. But even more than my individual experience, I've also just seen a lot of horror stories with it. The one time I took it, every single unit in every single draft either had Burnout or Large Stone. It was rough.
So you took it before you got any units?
Well, it was like, I think it was ring 2. No, it might have been right out of the gate, actually. Yeah, I think it was right out of the gate.
So we have a restart from Never Nathaniel on ring 5. Ring 5 is kind of rough, admittedly.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Glareminder build is having to restart. He's definitely on the strongest Glareminder build, and I think that's the best way to insulate yourself from restarts. I'm guessing it's chunky damage or chunky enemies that are causing him the biggest problem.
Gabriel finishes ring 4, but it does take some damage. So we got everyone working on Ring 5 right now, except for Sanguine Penguin, who I missed if he took damage. Oh, he must not have taken damage. Oh, he healed, so I can't tell.
So worth noting, Gabriel definitely made the right decision on the broken wheel there. I guess there was maybe a way that fight could have played out differently, but he would have lost his Awoken Hollow if he had taken it. So opting out of the Malika artifacts worked out very well for him. I'm curious to see if Nate's build is actually going to let him do something like replaying his eggs here. I'm not sure. Like he could. Oh, he actually can't endless them, right? So I thought it applied to all of his units, but it does not apply to the Marsh Lord egg. That does not have endless.
Right, it's not a unit. Yeah.
It is a cardless.
Wait. Yeah, but it might apply. I don't know.
So I can see it right now. It didn't apply. I think it's because it's cardless.
No, he doesn't have endless yet.
Am I looking at? Oh, I'm looking at Penguin. Penguin has Broken Wheel, and it is his Marsh Lord egg does not have endless, but the other two units do.
No, he just has the heal. Yeah, his units heal every turn. Oh, but his other two units have endless.
Yeah, that's he has the endless one. I saw him take the Broken Wheel earlier. That's what the vial is. So yeah, the Marsh Lord egg does not get endless, which I think is what he was hoping for. Or I think he was hoping it would get endless. A lot of underwhelming artifacts here. I think a lot of them just don't play into the strategy that well, or are just ones that are generally underwhelming. Honestly, the Trader's Quill that Penguin has right now is one of the more insane ones to see.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. I would really want to go repeater with this.
Yeah, I'm curious what the repeater deck would have ended up looking like. Curious what the consume spells would have been.
So Never Nathaniel doing another restart here. There goes my hopes and dreams of him helping us with the third match.
Well, at least it means he'll be around to help us a lot more tomorrow.
No, because he could win the third match.
I'm saying if he wins now, then he's not available at all tomorrow. So we had two people go for Broken Wheel. Nate taking two Malika artifacts, still waiting for those payoffs, but he should be fine.
I don't know. This is his second restart. Okay, so we have Sato pulling off the Ring 5 victory with no damage.
Looks like Penguin maybe. Okay, he just squeezes out against Fell, but not by very much. I'm curious if this is a seed where everyone's actually going to survive. We haven't seen that many Divinity kills today, aside from that busted deck in last round. Oh man, there's the perfect Insanity again. I don't think it plays well in this deck, but it's cool.
I like Cycle of Life, but it's expensive.
Cycle's also not that important for Penguin since he's on this double Glimmer build.
Yeah, this enemies getting damage shield business is really hurting.
Yeah, it might have been a bit too ambitious for Nate. A thing to watch out for here, not all hits are going to be equal depending on which damage shields you're taking off. Depending on how your floor is set up. I think his is pretty straightforward, but sometimes taking damage shield off of one thing actually means you get more damage on a backliner than it does taking it off another.
Yeah, he's probably done. This is his third try, I think, or fourth try, but it's looking rough. I'm curious how the other bracket is going. I know Sal Link is a very strong player usually.
Let's see, what matchups do we have in the other one? We had Sal Link, Jake, Bangaroo, and Confucius.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Sal Link definitely, at least based on notoriety, is going to be the advantage player there. Interesting bottom floor setup that Nate's trying out here. I'm curious what the thought is here. I guess it's letting Reap percolate a little bit more over the course of the fight. The problem is then he has a lot less time to take off these damage shields with Echo Breaks. And the Reap damage that you're getting is not nearly as important as the actual strikes from your units. Penguin just managing to hatch the big egg just before getting Pyro Wing to death here. So no more mana for him the rest of his combat, but honestly, he doesn't need it.
Yeah, he's got. I like the Eternal Kinstone there.
Okay, there's a very strong unnamed tome on the second Pyro Wing. Going to give him a lot of leeway. A lot of extra room to breathe. I think that pretty much sets him up for this fight. So Nate's fight here, still interesting, but yeah, I think same problem we discussed before. The damage that he's gaining on this Reap is not nearly as useful as the damage he was losing to not being able to strike enemies after Echo Breaking damage shields.
Yeah, the enemy's doing 14 damage, so even if he can get it down to one hit, it's gonna kill him.
You're just going to throw everything at this Clip Guardian and see if it's enough. I don't think it is. Yep. Nope, not quite.
It's done, though. It's going to keep trying, though, as long as he can.
I will say, I saw a line for him to survive one more wave in a previous iteration of this fight, actually 2 fights ago. If he had let himself take a little damage to some of the sycophants, then he could have had extra damage yields off of that Clip Guardian sycophant wave to end up clearing the Clip Guardian with a second hit from a Bogfly. Not sure if that keeps him alive in the fight overall, but it would at least keep him alive for one more turn than he's been managing to make it.
So Penguin gets a flawless ring 7.
Yeah, Penguin's in a very good spot. Consistently hatching these eggs, his deck has gone very, very wide in terms of consume spells, and he's on a double Glimmer plan, so his sustain is perfectly fine. Also, really high power Glimmers are going to play well with the final Marsh Lord egg, because that thing is really, really thick and grows to be even thicker. I don't mind these ensnares here for Gabriel, by the way. Or at least this ensnare. I think it's in a pretty good spot. Plugging leaks seems to be very important right now because his relentless fights are pretty well set up given all the regen. Ensnare is one of those cards that can help you plug leaks really, really effectively, but sometimes cost you relentless because your kill floor took way too much damage to passing waves. I have a Soul Crushing Guilt from Penguin. Probably looking to use that to set up against Divinity on top 4, despite having a reasonable shard level. So I think his units would have been big enough when combined with the Glimmers anyways. As long as they had more health than Divinity as attack, you'd be fine. So I'm not sure the Soul Crushing Guild's absolutely necessary.
I just find it hard to turn down. Most decks. Never Nathaniel getting better results on this this attempt, it looks like.
So he readjusted the ordering of his floor. The problem is he can't actually change his attack order here because the Bogflies have quick.
So he can change the attack order of his other 2 units.
He actually can't change those either because one of them is Echo Right and the other is the egg it spawns. So the egg always has to go in front. So he has no way to change the attack order of his floor at all. Which means he can't use Echo Right's comparatively small attack to clear out smaller units first. That also means that he's not dealing with backliners with his scaled up echoes. Because it's the Bogflies and the echoes that are allowing him to scale his damage. But those are always going to hit the front couple of units.
I wonder if a 2-floor setup would somehow work.
Maybe. I'd be a bit concerned about his defensive capabilities at that point. So Nate ended up passing on. Did Nate end up passing on Glimmer? I don't think I've seen it.
I haven't seen it either. So we got a flawless round 6 from Gabriel.
There's a decent auto upgrade from the reflection for Gabriel here. We have a permafrost on a perfect insanity. Great way to deal with enhanced mini bosses. Nate's still chugging along. This is the way that's consistently giving him problems here. All right, he cleared that one. So now these next couple waves are just a matter of having enough individual strikes. So I guess that's what this entire fight's been about, because of these damage shields. So that wave, he can't survive currently. And also, that Sycophant in the back becomes too big. It actually kills him in a single hit as well. So he'd have to be able to full clear, but he's not going to be able to do it. Actually, with the number of echoes he has, maybe he can apply enough reap. The problem is he can't take the damage shield off of both of the backliners.
The thing is, his flies are doing 52 damage, and then they need to do 60 damage. I think.
And he can't really control too much overstacking above a certain point in echoes there. Once you get to 4, the overstacking of your echoes is just a matter of the hand that you draw that specific turn where you need to do something. So he's gonna test around with combinations of echo breaking various units. Though even if he makes it out of this fight, I think he's gonna run into a big problem against the clock.
Yeah.
So I'll probably mostly just focus on some of the other fights. We have Penguin fighting Relentless Seraph right now. I'm doing extremely well thanks to massively healed up
Flawless
Worm.
victory. I'm gonna have to go check his run history, but he has 130 shards. I'm not sure how many flawless victories he had. As far as I can tell, he didn't restart at all.
Yeah, it's tough to evaluate Penguin's performance based on his health, given the refracting lenses.
Yeah.
That's a very good unnamed tome. Turn 1. That turn 1 wave, really, really trigger heavy. Only 12 power on the Divinity Suite. Should be fine. He basically just has to get a Glimmer in his first few hands, which is near guaranteed, though not entirely guaranteed. There's a Glimmer, but I don't think it's holdover.
Let's see. It's just piercing and damage.
So I'm interested in how he's sustaining his Glare Minder and Echo Right in a. I mean, he can sustain Glare Minder with regen. I'm interested in how he's going to sustain Echo Right.
Excuse me. We'll find out this turn. He's got Glimmer. He's got. Seems to be drawing a Glimmer every turn, but it's not holdover.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. His deck isn't so small that he's just going through it that fast.
I guess he has a bunch of those Glimmers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a good alternative to a holdover Glimmer is just like 10 of them. It's effectively the same thing. So, keeping Echo Right alive. Fortunately, just a couple of copies of Glimmer here or there are enough to sustain him for a few turns. And his deck is a consume focus deck. So once he trims it down enough, he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. He'll just be able to draw Glimmers consistently regardless. Seems to be having a bit of a problem with the enhanced Darkwing waves, though.
Yeah, he's gonna take some fire damage, but not enough to kill him, and he's gonna heal some of it back. Oh, this wave though.
So did he end up passing on the Perfect Insanity? Because he had that permafrosted Perfect Insanity available to him earlier. And that would have been the pretty straightforward way to deal with this. Yeah, it seems like he is very easily going wide, but he's having problems going tall. And honestly, he might have problems going wide from here on. The trample helps a little bit, but he lost Glare Minder. And even though it has Endless, he just can't afford to play it on the floor because the egg unit is massive.
It's never given up. All right, so we got a death from Sanguine Penguin, but he made it through Divinity with a lot of flawless victories, so could be good.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this one's going to come down to who wins by more. I don't think that's what this run is about. There were a lot of flawless fights, a decent bit all around here, and a reasonably strong setup, but I'm not sure that this deck is strong enough to beat Divinity with, any set of draws. Or even a pretty large number of its draws. I actually would have liked...
So he had six flawless victories in the end.
So, interesting play there. He's still holding on to that snare. I'd like to see Gabriel slow down a Pyre Wing. It means he's going to have double stacked Pyre Wing here. And I'm not sure what his plan is to deal with that, but leaving those two together and just giving yourself one extra turn to set up all of your etches and regen is pretty solid.
It's got holdover. He could just keep doing it.
Well, he can do it to one of them. Unfortunately, there's two of them stacked up at the same time right now. Leaving one of them back is not bad, though. Yeah, generally better to slow them down, even if it means stacking them up in an awkward way. Just holding off units when your deck has some kind of setup cards that it wants to play. It's better to get those setup cards out early and then have turns where you don't do anything rather than not do anything for a while and then start playing your setup cards. So slowing those down as much as you can at any
Six.
cost is really valuable.
Looks like we lost Sato. He had like alt tabbing or something.
Yeah, Sato's keeps. It says he's minimizing the application. I'm not sure. Whoa, look at those frames. This is some PlayStation 1 era stuff. So this is more like Windows 96 era stuff. About as many frames on that screen as there were pixels on Peanut Jack's screen earlier.
The number of frames on Sato's screen and the number of restarts that Never Nathaniel's done are very similar in number.
Ouch. That's just don't forget to tell that to his face later. And make sure it's in a room that I'm in as well. So we have Sato here did pick up the perfect insanity and has given it his own permafrost manually. That's going to be really helpful because as we saw in Penguin's fight, I mean Penguin's deck was set up better than most here, but even he had real big problems against an enhanced mini boss.
Yeah, and we see Gabrielle is having a little problem here in ring 7, just the number of units. Is it? Yeah, Gabrielle.
Yeah, I mean, eventually ensnares are just you're just leaving a problem on the table.
Well, in most fights you could give up a card draw to kill one unit, but decided to go for killing it instead, or not killing it.
On the bright side, he did just get a pre-clear on that Pyre Wing right there. Not that he needed the mana at the end here, he ended up just kind of clicking in turn. But pre-clearing those things is very, very important, and not something that this deck is super capable of doing in general. It's at the very least a good sign for him. Nate still slamming his head against the wall, something I can relate to after my final run last night.
Did it involve many, many restarts?
Oh yes. I'm probably like I still have that run. It's my most recent run, but I'm like 200 damage short on a Seraph kill with a pretty easy Divinity kill kind of expected after it. I just can't find a way to get that last 200 damage, and me and Sinister Saturnine tried a lot of things to try and figure it out. So, not sure. Might tackle it again later. It's a weird one because it's a deck that's very pre-clear heavy, which also involves dealing a lot of damage, but I'm fighting Seraph the Patient. So throwing spells at Seraph the Patient has a lot of give and take and a lot of math to it that's tough to figure out how to do perfectly.
Yeah. I've had fights like that where I would come back the next day and then just beat it the first try.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be one of those. When I say beating head against the wall, I mean like my head ended up through the sheetrock after about 20 or 30 attempts. So more leaks coming out here from Sato. Struggling to deal with the 290 health Gilded Wings. I mean, I think that's a very consistent theme here. Is just people not having enough damage to deal with more chunky enemies.
Yep. So Never Nathaniel finally bites the dust, realizes there's only so many iterations of that fight he can do, and he unfortunately commits himself to a third match today.
Yeah, again, I'll stand by the point that at least puts him at roughly a 50-50 shot to help us all day tomorrow. Though I guess knowing Nate, if there's an opportunity for him to be out in one hit and immediately help with production, he would have figured it out. So putting him in tomorrow, which is single elimination, we probably wouldn't have missed out too much anyways. I think we would have been fine. Very, very fast hatches here, by the way, on these eggs. The Bounding Echoes that started in the deck coming in clutch. Just that one
It's
random
trying
consume spell.
again. Oh no, he's looking at the other run. Oh, he's gonna help scoring the other one. Nice.
Oh, he's going to check out the backup seed
Yeah.
for the elimination round. So I'm curious to see what that seed was. Looks like Rector Flicker Echo Break is what they had to deal with. Interesting. I'm not sure what he was
So
trying
we
to look
can
at.
get getting a little preview of who did well. So Sleepy Bear, Jake, and Bengru have been eliminated or have lost their run. So you know Bengru probably is not making it to the finals, but Sleepy Bear Jake lost later in the run, so he might have a chance.
Yeah, we got a holdover molded, really powered up Dreg, which is a curious one. I'm interested in what the other possible options were for units to power up. Also, double Paraffin Enforcer is pretty solid, but I'm guessing not having a good enough defensive plan was what killed that run. I don't see a lot of good defensive options. So back over to Gabriel here. Looking pretty fine against Seraph. In fact, I think he's got this locked up solidly. He doesn't have enough shards such that Seraph is going to use this lifesteal to a great degree, though that is something to watch out for. If you go really crazy with the shards and you get this lifesteal iteration of Seraph, sometimes it adds up to Seraph essentially having this like massive relentless regen that you can't deal with.
So Sato did get a flawless ring 8. And these flawless victories, I think, are going to be a big part of the score in the end.
I will say, not just given our scoring format, but given the way Last Divinity plays out in general, and the shard enhanced enemies, Vapor Funnel is one of those artifacts that I already thought was very good and has gone even further up in my ratings with the release of the DLC. I think Vapor Funnel is really strong. Firewall.
The downside being like spikes. Like you can't just ignore enemies if they're gonna die because they have a lot of spikes and a lot of health. But yeah, I really do like Vapor Funnel.
Yeah, I mean, at least often a lot of the spike enhancements are just like, one spike. So it's nothing too crazy. It looks like Sato having a pretty awkward draw here, though. I'm not sure what happened to his other priority unit. Because he just played. All he played this turn was Echo, right?
Maybe he couldn't keep it alive.
Oh, I think maybe he lost his kill floor to something and reset it because of Endless. I don't know. Not sure what happened to Sato. Running up against time here, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. There's enough time to finish this fight, though not enough time to restart Divinity. But once you've hit a restart on Divinity, that last fight doesn't matter.
There's no point, yeah. Although we are considering reworking it so that a win is worth a chunk of points. So, like winning on Ring 8 would be often better than losing to Divinity.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. We'll definitely be updating. I mean, we already went into this kind of expecting to update the scoring system going into the next one. A lot of this is testing stuff out, seeing how it plays. So playing reasonably well just for something that we, are working on without actually stress testing it. I think that the format has actually encouraged a lot of good and interesting gameplay that better reflects normal gameplay than just going by score. And has also led to some more interesting scenarios where, since there's less of a gradient to the points, there's a lot of clean-cut things that don't exactly force decisions in the way that Trials did before, but cause players to make these kind of, chickeny or bold scenarios or bold choices based on how they think other players are doing and the thresholds that they can cross to get more points. Like,
yeah, and we've seen the gambit where like super safe play would have taken the day or would have come in last because we've had seeds that are on both ends of the spectrum.
yeah, and that's definitely exacerbated largely, not like certainly somewhat by the scoring system, but also largely by the introduction of shards. I think shards have played a massive role in creating really disparate runs.
Okay, so we have Gabriel taking ring 8, but with damage.
I think that was flawless. He has oh no, his pyro wall got reset. Yeah, I didn't see what it was before.
Yeah, he took some damage. I
Okay.
saw, but we'll double check in the because I missed some of his other rings. We'll double check in the run summary.
Yeah, those a lot of those artifacts reset really really fast. Like they reset before you're even leaving the fight that they finished triggering in. So things like your pyro wall
And we have a death from Sato. So Sato not getting any points for ring 8. But I will go ahead and check his run summary.
wasn't that a ring 9? He died of
For ring
divinity or
9,
Seraph?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, he died of divinity.
Yeah.
I was writing 8 and said 8, and I meant 9. So he did not have any restarts, so we just take up his straight up points. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flawless victories and completed 8 rings. And he had 145 shards, which is not quite up to Sanguine Penguin's 113 points. He had 110.
So we have a comment in chat, which is something that we've certainly all reflected on a lot because it applied to the previous formats as well, which is that the format tends to be problematic for decks that are very heavy on game actions, things like Incant. Unfortunately, that's not a concern, or that's not an issue that arose from this new scoring format. It's more of an issue of tournament play in general because there's no way we can allow for just infinite amounts of time and keep a tournament flowing. So I'm not sure if there's a good solution to fixing the timing issue, which is unfortunate.
You just all play the same speed as me, and that's fine.
So Narninin, are you master of the hotkeys?
I do use hotkeys, but it's more. I'm not gonna say that. Like I think quickly. I'm not gonna say I think better. Like I'm not as skilled as other people often, but I make my decisions quickly. That helps.
I will say very interestingly, I've put 800 hours into this game and I don't know a single hotkey. I couldn't tell you one.
The number keys?
No, I wouldn't even know that they were bound to the numbers.
Keys? You don't use number keys for
Not
the cards?
one.
Oh my gosh.
Not one.
I definitely use number keys for the cards.
I'm out here flowing with the mouse. I also think it kind of helps content to at least like some extent, though maybe that's a little marginal. Just given that people can see where the mouse is moving. Often when I see people play with hotkeys, I have no clue what they just played and where they played it. Looks like we had a leak there due to overstacking caused by enemies being rooted. So when enemies overstack, they jump the floor. So he had a Wiltwing jump into the pyro room.
I have to double check, but I'm thinking that because Gabriel had to restart 2 floors, it's just 1 floor, sorry. It's going to be close. It depends on how many flawless victories he had. But I'm thinking that he would need to have gotten a lot of them to edge out Sato.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, though. I will say, Narninian, you and I are the ultimate winners here because everyone is dying on their triple Marsh Lord run.
Yep. Yeah, that's what you get for going eggs.
I don't want to talk about it. No, I mean, you guys don't want. I lost exclusively because I took that stupid artifact.
The damage shield thing, right?
But
you tried. You definitely
oh
tried your
God.
hardest.
Like
So by
freaking
the
nightmare, but it's fine. It's fine. I also didn't take the sweep. If I taken the sweep, it would have been fine too.
so that is actually
That was
time.
weird. Yeah, we're at time.
Okay. I don't think Gabriel had a chance anyway, because he had to restart. But I'll double check.
Yeah, he didn't have to restart this one, but yeah, I think we'll have to
He
let
had to
him
restart
know
ring.
that he ran out of time.
I think Never Nathaniel might have actually had to restart ring 5. I'm not sure.
Victory for the No Egg Gang has been declared in chat. The eggless.
It might have been 47 times that he restarted. I don't know.
No, I think if I hadn't taken that, I think my build could have made it.
Yeah,
because I would have had the healing every turn, so I would have gotten double.
You
ultimate
almost
trigger.
pulled it out. You almost got it. Like you're just
Yeah,
a little bit short.
There was a line that made it. There was a line that made it, but I didn't want to keep plugging it out. I knew I couldn't finish the rest of the run in time anyway.